Hey everybody, I wanted to show you two quick examples of how to solve a quadratic equation just by factoring. We're going to use the zero product property, which I have written right here, and it basically says if you have two things being multiplied by each other, in this case we have A times B, and they're equal to 0, then we know that the only way that this could equal 0 is if either A is 0 or B is 0. Right? So this is the property we use. So basically, when I ask you to solve a quadratic using factoring, what you're going to do is, first of all, we want to set it so we can use the zero product property. We want to set this thing equal to 0. Now notice, for example 1, 5x squared minus 15x, it's already set equal to 0, which is great. It's already done for us. So we're ready to factor. So this one is a pretty easy example. It's a quadratic, but you can basically factor out the greatest common factor. So if we were to factor this, we can factor out a 5 and an x, and that leaves us x minus 3. Okay, so it factored pretty easily. So in this case, if we're considering the zero product property, let's see, 5x right there, that would be your A, and x minus 3 would be your B. These are your two factors right here. So all you do basically once you get to that situation is you take each factor, however many factors you have. In this case, we just have 2. You set each of them equal to 0 and solve. So if I solved 5x equal to 0, that would be x equals 0. And if we solved x minus 3, of course you would add 3 to both sides, right? You get x equals 3. Okay, so we have two possible answers for this. X equals 0 and 3. Two solutions. A lot of times when you have an x squared in your problem, you can possibly get two solutions. Okay, that's the first example. Now let's look at one that's a little more, difficult. We have 3x squared minus 14x equals 24. Now, like I said, in order to solve by factoring, you want this problem to be set equal to 0. So our first step is we want to take 24 and we want to subtract it back over to the other side, right? So if we were to take 24 and subtract it to the other side, we would have minus 24 equals 0. Okay, so now we have it set equal to 0 and we're ready to factor. This is a quadratic that does factor. It's not quite as easy. Of course, this video is not really talking about how to factor. We studied that in a previous section, but it does factor. I'm going to do 3x and x. 24, you can choose 8 times 3, 6 times 4, 2 times 12. So it's not necessarily the easiest quadratic to factor, but I'm going to pick 6 and 4. It needs to be negative 24, so we'll have positive 6 and negative 4. Okay, so we have it factored. This is correct. You can check it and see, but we do have the right combination. So once we have this, we just take each factor, set it equal to 0, and solve. We get two possible answers. We have 3x. We're going to add 4 to the other side, right? And then we can divide by 3. X equals 4/3. That's the first one. And then, of course, for the second one, pretty easy. Just subtract 6 to the other side. X equals negative 6. So for this one, we get two possible answers. X equals 4/3 and negative 6. Okay? Two quick examples, but hopefully that helps on how to solve using factoring.